Diana, thank you so much for coming. When I looked at your website and saw the adorable faces of all those dolls that you've designed the molds for, I just couldn't wait for you to get here. How did you get started doing this?
Well, I always liked dolls, and I learned when I was a young mother, a stay-at-home mom, that there were people who made porcelain dolls as a sort of an art form. And I had a background in art, and I read up on it, and I thought that I would have to wait until my children were grown up, but I had an opportunity to design for a company in Illinois, and then later on I started making my own dolls. I got a kiln and learned how to do it.
The facial features are just precious.
Thank you.
So that we can show people, let's go ahead and start down here with this little baby who could not want this little adorable thing.
That's Chelsea, and she was modeled after one of my granddaughters.
Oh, is that right?
Who's 17 now, so it was quite a while ago that I modeled her, and we sell the molds to make Chelsea and all the other dolls.
And this one?
Her name is Allison, and she's an all porcelain doll.
Some of them are just the hands and arms and face, but this one's all porcelain.
All porcelain. All these three girls are all porcelain. That's Allison.
Turn her around so people can see how gorgeous she is. And this one is Allison.
And
and she's holding her own baby doll.
Yeah, this is a porcelain doll too. That's an all porcelain doll that's strung together, and April is holding her.
This is April. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta get their names right.
I get them mixed up too.
Well, there's so many on the website.
Yes,
I couldn't believe it.
there's a lot.
And this one's all porcelain as well.
And that's little Lou, and she's
got
holding
her
a
own
doll.
baby, too,
but this
a little
doll is not made of porcelain. It's made of another kind of clay. And
so you've experimented with lots of different things,
I like
haven't
to
you?
try different things.
Well, this is the clay, the magical clay that you use. And when people buy the molds, do they buy this with a mold, or do they buy this separately?
They buy it separately. We don't sell the clay. We buy it from somebody in Texas here.
And so that's this is what you actually use in your molds.
Right. Right.
And this is the mold. You designed this one yourself?
I do the sculpting, and then we have a mold maker that makes the mold from my sculptures.
Oh my word, that's so. And with your art background, I can see how that's possible.
Yeah.
But we might take a look at this mold before we start pouring anything in it. And you're just going to pour the.
Yeah, people want to know how you make a porcelain doll, and it's hard to really explain it. It's a little complicated because you take this liquid clay and you put it in the mold, and you wait a little while, and the plaster absorbs some of the moisture.
This is the plaster you're saying. It absorbs
and it's very
the moisture.
absorbent. It absorbs some of the water, and then you pour out the liquid center, and you have a hollow shell.
Okay, let's go ahead and pour this one.
Okay.
Do you just pour till it's up to this line I can see in there, or how do you know how?
Yeah, you fill the pour spout. Some molds you have to tip, but I'm just going to...
Oh, okay.
This is a fairly easy one. And you have to pour steadily so you don't hit...
That keeps air bubbles out, too, I would guess.
Right. You always have to watch for air bubbles, and it takes a lot of mixing to get it to the right
It's just a creamy
consistency.
Okay. And this would set approximately how long? And you said it depends on weather and all kinds of factors, but approximately.
Right. Well, you leave it full for 5 minutes or so, and then if it looks like it's getting thick enough, then you pour it back into your jug or
what's left
whatever,
out.
and then you leave that shell in there for a little bit longer, let it firm up more.
Otherwise it would be so heavy, wouldn't it?
Well, it'd be soft, and it wouldn't survive the opening. You have to, it kind of draws away from the plaster just a bit when it's the right...
Like when you're baking, it comes loose from the edges, so to speak.
It's not like that.
Okay, now this one we poured, we have no idea if it's ready or not, but we poured it a little bit earlier, so this is what we might call the magic moment, and let's hope it works, right? Let me move this out of your way. And show us what we would do once we think it has set up and after we poured the excess out of this first mold.
You take the band off.
Okay, those are strong bands that hold it together.
Yeah, if you don't have strong bands, you get porcelain everywhere.
And you're just...
I'm trying to see if it's going to give. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it wants to
not quite
let go
ready
yet. Can we
Maybe
leave
we
it just
better
a little
leave
bit?
it and then show one that you've already taken out of a mold.
Okay. This one has...
Oh, and this is what you meant by pouring out the, the excess.
Right. It's hollow.
It's hollow.
And this has actually been fired a little bit because usually people don't like to handle them when they're so fragile, and they also create a lot of dust when you're polishing them. You have to do a lot of polishing before it's ready to do the final firing.
And you said this one's been fired once. So,
it's been fired briefly
okay.
to a cool temperature of about 1,200 degrees.
Okay.
And
for how long?
About an hour.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe it depends on how fast your kiln is.
And how big.
Different kilns are different.
And also, you have molds in from the little teeny tiny ones. What's the largest?
About 30 inches tall.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're not all porcelain. They've got a cloth body with an armature inside.
And we'll show an example in a minute. So this one's been fired once, just slightly, and then let's take a look at the next example. Now, this is one that has been fired to the mature temperature. So this is the porcelain. You can see how much it shrinks during the firing. So this was the same size as this?
Right.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a different size mold.
It's fired to 2,200 and something degrees.
Okay.
And that's what it looks like when you're... And then it has to be polished up a bit more.
And when you say polishing, what do you use to polish? Is it a cloth?
We have special sanding pads and different items.
It's, I guess, like a softer sandpaper type? Okay.
Something like that.
So you just
like
polish it all over. Gosh, it's just as smooth as it can be.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you have one that you've slightly painted.
And this one, then you would paint it with China paint. We do all the eyes and everything with China paint. Now this one has got one firing of the paint. That usually requires...
So you paint and then fire it.
Right. It has to be fired again to like around 1,200 degrees.
Wow.
And then you put a little bit more paint on. This is the China painting is a traditional art form.
That goes with porcelain doll.
I learned porcelain, I learned China painting before I started making dolls, so it really helped.
So you already knew that process, didn't you?
Yeah. So that's how you do the China paint. You have to build it up layer by layer.
I see.
And until you get the depth.
And you fire in between.
Fire in between.
Okay, let's take a look at little Aaron. You said that was the first doll you created, wasn't he?
Right. Well, he was not the first doll I created, but it was the first doll that our company sold as a mold.
Okay. And is he? You said he has a beanbag body, but the head and the arms.
Yeah, he's all cloth, and he's got pellets that we call beans, and except for his hands and his head. So he's just kind of a cuddly little
darling. And you were going to tell us about the little head down there beside it. What were you going to talk about?
This is Chelsea. This is kind of the sister to the baby we looked at before. I just wanted to show how you can paint the hair.
Instead of putting the fake hair on.
With with these little babies that you can make them look realistic with that. And with Aaron, I attach the hair with a special technique that I've developed.
They're just gorgeous.
But you can also buy wigs to put on your little dolls. All these have wigs that are purchased.
Well, we certainly don't have time to go through the whole process, but you said this is a book that you have found very helpful through the years.
This is what we recommend because it's got everything from start to finish on how you make porcelain dolls.
And you can get it at your website and also like Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, all the major companies. And when people buy a mold, they actually get the instructions, so that's
we try to provide instructions for everything that we sell.
Well, thank you so much for showing us what a process is involved in making these beautiful dolls.
Well, thank you for having me.